Imagine living in a golden cage. You wear the finest silk, eat the richest food, and sleep on soft pillows, but you are not free. Your every step is watched. Your smile is a performance. And your body? It belongs to the emperor. Now imagine being one of hundreds of women, all fighting for one man's attention, and if you lose, your life becomes a quiet prison of loneliness and shame. This is not a story from fiction. This was the cruel reality for many women in ancient China. Welcome to the disturbing world of Chinese concubines. Our story takes us back to Imperial China. The exact dynasty may vary, but the practice remains shockingly similar for centuries. In the Forbidden City, behind walls so high that sunlight barely reached, lived the emperor and his many concubines. These women were not just lovers. They were symbols of power, beauty, and control. Some came from noble families. Others were forced into the palace at a young age. A few dreamed of becoming empress. Most simply wanted to survive. The palace was more than just a home. It was a machine that turned women into tools for the royal bloodline. The emperor did not choose his concubines based on love. Many times, it was about politics, alliances, and appearances. At the center of this system was one man, the emperor. His word was law. His desire shaped the lives of hundreds. And yet, he barely knew most of the women who lived and died for his approval. Every part of a concubine's life was planned. Where she walked, who she spoke to, when she ate. Even how she looked and what she wore. There was no freedom in this luxury. Only rules, silence, and expectations. Becoming a concubine was not always a choice. Many were chosen during beauty selections held across the empire. Girls as young as 13 were examined like objects. Skin, hair, teeth, even their walking style was judged. Once selected, they left their families forever. They were not allowed to return home. Even their names were changed to match palace ranks. From that moment, they belonged to the emperor. The transition was hard. Some girls cried for days. Others were told to forget their past. Many had no idea what was waiting for them behind the palace gates. Life inside the Forbidden City was not a fairy tale. It was a game of survival. Every concubine was in silent competition. One wrong move could mean losing favor or worse, being punished. They were not allowed to leave the palace. They were not allowed to have personal relationships. Some were never even allowed to see the emperor. Every night, the emperor's servants would roll a list of names. If your name was chosen, you were prepared. You had to bathe, dress in silk, and wait for a chance to be with the most powerful man in China. But many concubines waited their whole lives and were never called. Some died in their rooms, never having spoken to the emperor once. One quote from a former palace maid says it all. They dressed like queens but lived like prisoners. Some concubines who gained the emperor's favor rose in rank. But this brought jealousy. Poisonings, secret alliances, and betrayals were common. Concubines learned how to smile with their mouths while hiding fear in their eyes. They had to read people, choose words carefully, and stay invisible to those who wished them harm. Imagine sleeping beside a woman who might try to ruin your life the next day. There was no sisterhood here, only survival. And if a concubine became pregnant? That was dangerous too. A royal child was both a gift and a curse. Other women could see the baby as a threat. Many miscarriages were not accidents. Many deaths were not natural. In some cases, children born to concubines were taken away. The mothers were not allowed to raise them. The palace raised the children, and the women were left alone again. These rules were not written in kindness. They were written to protect power, not the women. Perhaps the most shocking truth is this. Concubines had no control over their own destiny. Some emperors would abandon entire groups of concubines after they grew old. They were moved to cold, dark rooms. Some died alone, forgotten. Others would bury concubines alive to follow them in death, a practice known as human sacrifice, done to serve the emperor in the afterlife. Yes, some women were killed simply because the emperor died. They were told it was an honor. In truth, it was cruelty. There were stories of concubines being poisoned, starved, or locked in cold rooms for disobedience. There were even tales of women who tried to escape only to be captured and tortured. One concubine named Consort Jen, during the Qing dynasty, was reportedly thrown into a well by order of the Empress Dowager. Her crime? Being too close to the emperor. Another tale tells of a woman who fell in love with a palace guard. When the secret was discovered, the man was executed, and the woman disappeared. Some say she was locked in a small room, where she eventually died. And yet, the empire called this tradition. The palace called it loyalty. The people were told it was honor. In truth, it was a system built on silence, suffering, and fear. There were no happy endings. Even the most powerful concubines lived in fear that their favor could end at any moment. Today, we remember the emperors. We study the dynasties. We visit the Forbidden City as tourists. But what about the women? The ones who gave their youth, their bodies, and their lives to a man who often forgot their names. Their stories are not written in history books. Their faces are not painted in the halls of fame. But their pain was real. Their lives were not a fantasy. So next time you hear about royal concubines, remember, it was not just silk and jewels. It was sacrifice, fear, and lost freedom. But what would you have done in their place? Would you fight for power or try to escape? Let me know in the comments. Would you survive this royal nightmare?